Hello, solopreneurs and aspiring solopreneurs, and welcome to this week's Maximum Bliss Accelerator Moment. I'm Daniela Saioni, and if you have not dropped in on any of these sessions, every Sunday morning, at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, I go through some general topics relating to solopreneurship. I founded a course community and a coaching group called Coffee Break MBA, where I'm working with over 50 creative solopreneurs in 4 countries at the moment in helping them start and grow their online businesses. And we've grown so much that I created the Coffee Break MBA Facebook page. And I like to have some regular free content for you guys, the non-coffee breakers, the aspiring coffee breakers, or just people in general who want to dip their toe in online business. Okay, so if you've been following along, last week we were talking about who you love to serve. It was actually called Finding Your Mojo for Business, but from my perspective, finding your mojo comes from serving the people you love to serve, right? Because in the business is full of highs and lows, and in the dark times, the people who are going to get you through are your audience or your customers or your clients. If your mission really is to change their lives and to help them, not every business you run will change people's lives on a big scale, but hopefully on some level, you're going to make your mark on the world with something that you bring into the world to improve someone's life. So today's Maximum Bliss Accelerator Moment talk is all about finding your people. Once you know who you want to serve, of course, you have to go out and find them. Inside Coffee Break, of course, I have so many detailed modules and exercises that help you in all of the stage we're talking about, all the stages that we're talking about in these Maximum Bliss Accelerator Moment talks. I have a series of exercises designed to help you discover who you love to serve. But I think even just thinking about it, like the exercise we did last week, will get you most of the way there. So here's a clue on where to find your people. Often, your audience is a clear reflection of you. Sometimes your audience literally is you, people like you, or just the people you like to hang out with, the people you love to help. So if that's the case, and believe me, that's usually the case, then think about where you love to hang out on the internet or in life. Think about what you love, and chances are high you're going to find your people. I call it your people, your audience, the people who connect to you, the people who want to work with you, the people, who just like spending time with you online, in person or otherwise, who need what you have to offer because you've been in their shoes, and now you can help them because you've already passed the problem that they're in right now. Those people are going to gravitate to the things you gravitate to. So it's not really that hard. We'll get into some, it is hard. You're finding, sometimes it feels like you're finding a needle in a haystack, but you're really just looking for you. It's not as hard as, if you believe in the one, it's not as hard as finding the one in relationships. By the way, I don't believe in the one, I believe in the many, but there are many iterations of you, and what you're into. My audience isn't all 50-year-old white women who grew up working class. I have a broad audience, but we share a lot of things in common, and knowing what we share is what helps me to find them. Yes. So you might be thinking, okay, is this particular week's talk out of order? Like, shouldn't I, if I know who I want to serve, shouldn't I then create something for them before I figure out how to find them? Not necessarily. And in fact, probably not. I think personally, it's better to gather your people around you and find your community before you offer something to them. You know why? Because they're going to actually give you a lot of specifics about what they want and what they need. And you're going to actually be able to help them better if you get to know them first. Find them and get to know them, and you'll know them because they share a lot of things with you, but you might have forgotten because you've passed their pain point, right? Like I'll use me as an example. I've cracked the code on how to earn at least 10,000 a month online. My audience is looking to crack that code. I may have forgotten at times, and I have to keep reminding myself what it was like to not know how much money I'm going to make next month, right? I have to remember that. Having my audience around me continually reminds me of specific frustrations they have, let's say about running ads or anything like that, so that I can put myself back into their mindset. You want to continually be putting yourself in your audience's shoes, even though they are you, even though you've been there. Sometimes you have to remind yourself what it was like. So having them all around you is great. If you gather your troops and find your people before you create something, it's going to give you so many ideas. You might even change the thing that you want to create. I always say business is creative because it very much is. And you might be creating, an ebook or some sort of digital course or a podcast. So I'm creating a podcast. It's not to do with business. It's on a topic that's very personal to me. I may actually even do it under a pseudonym. I'm strongly considering that. I will still be my authentic self, but in character during that podcast, because it's kind of controversial. But that's like 6 months down the road. What I've been doing to find my people, and I've been through what they, that I know who they are. I interviewed a whole bunch of them. Before the pandemic started, I interviewed a bunch of them to ask them if this podcast existed, what would they like to see? What would they like to hear? I compared notes. Did they go through what I went through in this particular area? I know I'm being so secretive, but it's separate from my other work as an entrepreneur. I may do it under my name, but I haven't come to that decision yet. But anyway, and that was a lot of useful information they gave me about what they wanted to see in here. So and I already have now a growing group of people who know I'm doing this and who will probably be the first people to tune in once I go live with that podcast. So whatever it is you're creating, you might change your mind as to what it is. So initially, before I thought about that podcast, I was going to create a course. And then I thought, I'm not a known person in that space. And by the way, that should never stop you from starting a business of any kind or a project. But I still did want to build some credibility and some familiarity with people so they know who the hell I am, to give them some deeply personal life advice, right? So I thought for me, the more I talk to people, I thought the podcast was a good way in, because very often you create stuff where you're not charging people a dime. Like you're really building your community, exploring your subject area, creating content that brings your people to you, make it useful content, make it stuff, and you'll know what's useful to them because you'll talk to them. You'll ask them questions. I have in my Mondo Cinema Film and TV Workshops group, I will often do Facebook Lives where I just say, ask me anything. And it's very helpful to hear what people ask me about my writing programs or my filmmaking programs. I think it's more important to have your audience nearby before you ask them to give you any money. I just think, and it's, you might never be asking, you might just be building an audience to create a podcast or to create a YouTube channel where they're not the ones monetizing you. It's the sponsors or YouTube itself who is monetizing you. So, but the great value in your business is your client list. So whether or not they're paying you, they're your clients, they're people you serve, they're people, that are rocking your world, hopefully as much as you are rocking theirs. And I'll talk more about that in a bit. Another example from my life is I talked about this last week. I ran a live comedy show for years before I started training comedy writers. Now, I didn't actually think I was going to start a program to train comedy writers in writing film and television, but doing the comedy room, just made me observe a whole bunch of things. The comedy room was a business in and of itself because, like I said, it paid my mortgage. I paid my comedians. Talent got developed. An audience got built. I learned about marketing. Marketing is really finding your people, engaging your people, and changing their lives. I always say that. I believe it's very true. With West End Girls, the comedy room I had, we found our people, both the comedians and the audience. We engaged them with riveting shows so that they'd keep coming back every month to see the show and changing their lives. Well, some comedians' lives were changed, not only because of my show, listen, But, having a gig regularly does change your life for the better as a comic and as an audience. Being able to go to a comedy show where, it's not all male masturbation jokes. It was like a great alternative. Anyway, I saw the opportunity to help people make more money. So help the comedians make more money as TV writers, help and help the audience in a way, because now they could see these female voices, because I was mainly promoting women and people of color on television, and, in writing rooms, writing shows for them. So I started the one business in 2008, and I started the second business for comedy writing programs in 2012. And I wasn't planning it all along. It just was a natural evolution. So sometimes when you find your people, you make discoveries, you make observations, and you create new things that you never thought you would create. So finding your people obviously is a hugely important part of the puzzle, and you'll probably be finding them before you create something, or you'll be doing it simultaneously. You have some kind of an idea of what you want to do. But while you're still finalizing that idea, there's nothing stopping you from bringing your people to you, right? You know who you want to serve, start bringing them to you. So how do you do that? So many ways. We go into a lot of ways inside Coffee Break MBA, but you can see it in everything that I do. You can start a YouTube channel in your niche. So I break every marketing rule in the book, I think, sometimes, but my YouTube channel, you're supposed to focus on one thing. And of course, I'm a Gemini, and I'm forgetting the word, a poly, I have multiple interests, and I'm good at multiple things, as many of us are. And that's the audience that I attract as well, by the way. So I have a YouTube channel focused on 3 different things, which is comedy writing, filmmaking, and entrepreneurship, because those are the 3 things I geek out about. And most gurus would say, you know what, you want to have 3 separate channels for that. But you know what, my audiences often join me in 2 or even all 3 of my projects, courses, events in all 3 areas, because they're like me. They have multiple interests, and they're all creative interests. So no apologies for that. So you could create a YouTube channel. It's free. Everyone has access to it. Think about who you love to serve, and think about the kind of content they would want to watch. If you don't know, you can ask them. You can ask them what they're curious about, what they want to learn more about. And you can start putting stuff out there in your own way. Now, next week, we're going to talk about engaging your audience. So how to do that. But you can start finding them. Now, that's a really slow way, because as you know, it takes a while to build up a following on a YouTube channel. There's certain techniques that'll get you there faster, for sure. But that's one way. Another way is start a Facebook page or a Facebook group. So a Facebook business page is like what you're watching me on. If you're not watching me on YouTube, if you're watching this talk on my Coffee Break MBA page, then this is a Facebook page. This is a Facebook business page, and everything relating to that business will show up on that page. I have a separate page for Mondo Cinema Film and TV Workshops, which is my filmmaking courses and my screenwriting courses. So you can create a Facebook page and start to curate your own content. Again, totally free. Everyone has access to it. It'll start, if people are searching in your topic area, they might stumble on your page randomly, or you can reach out through your social networks to start building the people who follow your page. You can start a private Facebook group. I have many, because I have many courses. So I have many groups for my students as well as my alumni, where I try to, now I know I do too much, but you don't have to have as many as I do. I'm a little bit nuts that way. But yes, you can have 1 or 2 or 3, however many suits your niche and what you're trying to achieve. And 1 is fine. And you can give people valuable content who are in those groups. You can make your group public or private. Some people have public groups with, 80,000 people in it, let's say in an area like screenwriting, where they're able to get their message out to screenwriters around the world. And you create the rules for your group, whether they're public or private. I have a whole bunch of private groups. Do I have any public groups? No, just my pages are public. And then I keep my content sort of more on private Facebook pages. But you'll start to build your audience there. You want to be creating some kind of event that attracts your audience. Now, we'll talk about engaging your audience next week, but of course, let me give you an example. For Coffee Break MBA, the thing that I created first for this group, I mean not this Facebook page, but for my coffee breakers, my paid membership community, the very first thing I created was a 90-minute webinar. Now, I was going to say sales webinar, but it wasn't very salesy. Nothing about what I do is very salesy, because listen, my audience is me and I don't like to be sold to. So nothing is ever going to be very salesy from what I do. Even though my friends on social media will probably say, Daniela, you're always advertising something. Yeah, that's true. I have a lot of things. I have a lot of events and products, but I'm not, hopefully I'm not pushy about it. So I had a sales webinar, which was a 90-minute webinar outlining my vision for Coffee Break MBA. I had people sign up for it. I ran ads, and I also reached out to my friends. Your friends and your community are the first place you're going to start. And you can still find that webinar on my YouTube channel. I've probably mentioned it in one of these talks before. It's called How I Earn $10,000 a Month Working 12 Hours a Week. It's on my YouTube channel. If you want to see, it goes so in detail about how I did it, but then also my vision for Coffee Break MBA. And guess what? My community found me. I actually am still kind of surprised at how easy that one was, because it's not always that easy to find your people. But the ways that you attract your people, and sometimes people are say, just keep creating and they will come. Fair. Yes, eventually that will happen. But I wanted to start a community like right away and start people in the course and start people developing products, because if you haven't heard me say this before, my goal with my coffee breakers is to get us to a collective $1 million as soon as possible. So I want them to create original products that bring them to $1 million in sales as soon as possible, in a non-salesy, authentic way, because that's who I am. That's what I teach, what I preach. I always think you'll go much farther just being yourself and doing what you love. Otherwise, you're just gonna, I think you'd lose your mojo for business if you're trying to be someone else or trying to do things just for the money rather than who you serve. Anyway, I got off track. So this is a good time to talk about hot, warm, and cold audiences, and I'll get back to the different ways you can find your people. So yes, a hot audience is what I talked about when you reach out to your friends and people who've known you for years. They're hot. They know what you're about. They know you. They probably like you, maybe not all of them, but they probably like you enough to trust what you're going to say, or at least listen to at least attend your events. It's a hot audience. You don't have to get to know them. They know you. They've known you in real life, probably. If not, they've taken classes with you. They've, come to your comedy shows. They're a hot audience. A warm audience is people who are aware of you. So they're either friends of your hot audience, or they've taken one little course with you. Like, I have a bunch of challenges that I do. So maybe someone took a challenge and they know what I'm about, sort of, but they don't have the full picture of Daniela Saioni. A warm audience maybe has been following you for years on social media, but they're still at a distance, but hey, they're warm. They've probably had a conversation with you, whether it's in person or on Zoom. They've experienced something about what you're about. They have a general idea of you. That is a warm audience. Often you meet them by creating stuff like this. Like, if you follow my whole Maximum Bliss Accelerator Moment series of free talks, even though they're not going to give you the breadth of everything that I do for my audience, they're going to give you enough of a taste of me to know if you want to work with me. So you become my warm audience if this is content that you like. And if it's not content that you like, then you will not follow me. And that's also good. You want to know who your people are. So you also have to know who your people aren't, right? So that's a warm audience. And a cold audience is people who are like, who the fuck is Daniela Saioni, right? Who is Daniela Saioni? Do I care? I don't know. They may or may not watch for a moment and then go, she's not for me. I hate her pink glasses, or whatever, or she's too casual about business. She's no Tony Robbins, nor does she aspire to be. But anyway, yes. So a cold audience has no idea who you are. They might give you a few seconds to get to know you, and at that point, they'll decide if they're going to find out more. So cold audiences typically find you through random Google searches or ads, paid ads that you pay for. So you can find your people by spending money on ads and spending money on events like, renting a room to run a comedy show, etc. Or you can organically find your audience, and it's a slower process potentially, but a more rewarding process down the road through hosting free events, through going to where you would go to find your people. So I'm not an Instagram person, but if I was, there might be certain hashtags I gravitate to. So I'd go to that hashtag and find the other people who follow that hashtag, and I'll probably find my people. I found a hashtag called Digital Nomads Italy. It's something like that. It's not exactly that. And I was like, oh my God, there's other people who specifically in Italy, where I also live. I live in Toronto right now, but I can be a digital nomad in my own country and connect with my own fellow digital nomads through that hashtag on Instagram. I'm fascinated. I'm just learning Instagram. I'm not great at it, but yeah, where are your Instagram hashtags? What Google search terms would your people search for? That's important if you're eventually going to use paid ads to find, turn cold leads into warm leads. You kind of need to know what Google search terms they would, what would you look for if you were trying to find you, what YouTube videos they watch, what websites they frequent. That's all valuable information. Of course, I have exercises in that in Coffee Break MBA, but that's the idea. You go to where you would go to on the internet or real life and think about that to find your people. It can take a long time, like I said, with my comedy writing courses where I built up over years. Oh, yes. After 4 years of stand-up, I started training comedy writers, and then I built up that empire, etc. I have several mini empires, but that one took 4 years. Other ones like Coffee Break, it felt like I built it in a day. I did the sales webinar. I had 150 people sign up for it, mostly my friends or friends of friends. So mostly warm and hot audiences, and a few cold audiences, because I did run ads and there were people that didn't know me that came to that webinar because something in the words in the ad, something in the photo, the images in the ad appealed to them. It addressed, and I can't even remember how I advertised it, but basically I was just saying, sign up, give me your name and email address to register for I did a series of 10 of the same talk, but I did them live so that I could answer questions about it. And of those 150 people who listened to what I had to say for the 90 minutes, I built the community, the first 22 people. So the first group of coffee breakers was 22 people. We're at 50 now, a little over a year later, 14 months later. Very dedicated solopreneurs and very passionate and interested people. Like, the joy of finding your people is something that is really the fun part of this. So yes, it's really fun to create the content and to figure out how you're going to leave your mark on the world and how you're going to help your people and who your people are and all of that. That's really fun. But it's beautiful when they come to you, when they rise up out of every corner of the internet from all different countries to say, hey, I'm here for this. I'm here for you. I met hundreds of people in the last, since I started my online businesses in April 2020, hundreds of people now in 14 countries who are my friends. Like, I consider them my friends. I've spent some degree of time with them on Zoom, if not in real life by now. And, a lot of my courses get very personal. So if you're in any of my writing classes, we are talking about life. If you're in my business classes, we are talking about life, right? Sometimes even in my script supervision and directing classes, we are talking about life. So it's interactive, and I've got like hundreds of who I consider my friends. So that's like such a beautiful part of, especially if you have a course business or anything interactive. I know a lot of people, the dream is to have passive income and to create something and put it away. And I do have stuff that's pre-recorded and everything, but I still insist on that, weekly live connection, because I want to meet my people. I want to talk to them. I'm fascinated by them because they're me. Is that narcissist? No, it's like, it's just, I love seeing different iterations of people with the same passions or similar passions or dreams and big ideas around the world. Anyway, it was a very emotional and beautiful moment for me when I realized that at some point during the pandemic, that my people found me and they were so cool. So finding your people, a huge step in this. Yes. And knowing, there's hot, warm, and cold audience, and next week's topic, engaging your audience, is the way to start to bring cold audiences to warm audiences and warm audiences to hot audiences. And your audience comes and goes throughout your life, but there's so many people that just keep coming back and consuming like everything I have to offer. And I do the same, by the way. I reciprocate. I'm not just but because they fascinate me. My audience fascinates me equally. So think like your audience when you set up something like a Facebook business page or a private Facebook group or a YouTube channel. If you're doing paid ads, make sure that they reflect you. Make sure they're not cookie cutter. Make sure your core message is there and getting across. We will talk about branding in a future talk, but just make sure your ads are a reflection of you. I've got some crazy, like I experiment with ads. If you've seen some of my ads, they're kind of crazy. And that's okay, because I'm trying to find my people, and they're not, they're kind of rebels and outlaws. They're kind of not standard thinkers. They're not 9-to-5ers. They're people who want financial freedom and life freedom, and they want to do it on their own terms using their own creativity. So I'm not going to I have had some sort of more corporate ads, but they weren't me. The ones that resonate more, the ones that get the most views and sometimes the most sales, you never know what's going to happen, are the ones where I take risks, but risks that reflect me. The visual branding, like the images you choose, the words you choose, the approach you take, the argument you make in your ad, all of that is going to help you find your audience, because it's going to repel the people who are not into anything you're saying. It's going to attract the ones who are. Let me give you a stupid example. You'll often see me wearing ponytails, right? And I'm in my 50s, and I have a lot of actually really good friends who are like, I hate it when you wear ponytails. Like, I can't stand. Well, they're not like my best friends, but they get like visibly, I don't know, they get so upset. Sometimes I even wear over the knee socks because that's me. I'm very comfortable that way. They get so upset. So, I'm about to say they're not my people, but they are. They're friends of mine, but they're not the people that are the people that I want to serve in my business. The people that I want to serve in my business don't really care about appearances to that extent where you're going to not be comfortable in order to conform to someone else's idea of what it should be. I'm not going to, you're almost never going to see me in a suit of any kind unless I'm acting in a movie and I have to wear a suit for that. I've never, ever had what one would consider a job. Like, I've always done gig work, etc. So I always dressed my own style in retro dresses, in schoolgirl knee socks, in ponytails. The people who are repelled by that they're going to see a grown woman in ponytails and they're going to change the channel. And the people who are like, oh, that person is making a living and has something to say, and she gets to be who she is, which is sometimes involves wearing ponytails and dresses. This is a very bad example, but also a clear example. Whoever doesn't like that, whoever thinks, by the way, my mom thinks these glasses are the worst. She's like, I can't believe you bought those glasses. They really diminish your, like, she can barely look at me, which she says the one great thing about these glasses is they're an amazing COVID shield because they protect my eyes from virus. True story. So yeah, if anything about the visual aspect of me or the material I put in my ads repels you, you're not going to stick around to hear me talk, right? So there's that. Now, yeah. So just be your authentic self is what I'm trying to say. Be your authentic self in every bit of content you put forward. Be your authentic self in every ad you create if you're doing paid ads. And the people who want to come closer will come closer, and the people who are repelled by you will go away. And that's a good thing, because you can't serve everyone, right? If you'd really thought about last week's talk about who you love to serve, if you said everyone in the entire world, that's impossible, right? You can't please all of the people all of the time. And if you try, it's a recipe for like exhaustion and a lot of pain. So know who you are. And sometimes business is a journey to discovering who you are. You don't have to know exactly who you are, but you have to have you have to be able to be yourself on an authentic level, so that you can attract people authentically who are like you, or have similar goals, or are interested in what you have to say. All right, I've been talking a lot today. So the fun part is when they finally come to you this week. I want you to think about. I try to give you guys an exercise each week, and I didn't write this down, but yeah. Think about the stuff I talked about. Where do you go on the internet and in real life? What are you drawn to? Because if you're still figuring out what by the way, you might not have a business idea yet, and that's okay. You're still figuring out maybe who you love to serve and where to find them. And you don't have to have your idea yet. I believe that sometimes people do it the other way. You start with your idea and you go backwards. You can do it both ways. And this is quite an organic way to come to like how you're going to earn money in, or, build an audience, or both in an online business. Start to think about Google search terms you would use to find you. Start to think about your Instagram hashtags. If you're on Twitter, who do you follow? And what is it that you like about them? All these kinds of questions, like figuring out what you like, so that people who are similar to you can find you. And this is like not as detailed as my Coffee Break MBA course, meaning I'm not going to give you the step by step, but I'm going to give you the broad strokes to get you thinking in a direction of eventually, if you're interested in starting a business, how you might do that in a way that pleases you. All right. I'm going to go. I have another talk shortly. By the way, this is another thing you can do. I skipped this part, so I'll say it. I do a lot of free talks. I do a lot of free talks for specific audiences, and that's the way I find my audience. I'm doing a talk today on script supervision without borders for international script supervisors. There are a few script supervision teachers in the world, and I'm one of them. And we're all different. And what I was trying to think about my student body, because I've got like 300 script supervision students around the world and alumni right now. And I have had more over the years, but I just mean in my current program. So what sets my people apart? And I've thought about that. And a lot of my students, just like me when I was a script supervisor, we travel for work. So I started to pick up on that lately, how much my students would graduate the program and start working and then start traveling for work, and how much they love that. And I realized, oh yeah, I have a whole strategy for that. So I'm doing a talk today on script supervision without borders that came directly from listening to my audience. So there you go. There's one more example. Do free talks. This one is a private one. So you would have had to register for it, and I would have your email so that I can continue communicating with you. But you can do public talks like this. You can do private talks. I'm a talker. If you haven't figured that out by now. So I like doing that, and other people do it different ways. All right. Have a great Sunday. I'm going to go have some coffee. See you next week when we're going to talk about engaging your audience. And if you're watching me on YouTube, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel, because it's going to help me make more videos. And my videos are not only about entrepreneurship, they're also about filmmaking and comedy writing, all the subjects I geek out about. Bye.